and welcome to another exciting episode of the KLIQ Nation's Comic Book Chronicles. As I'm trying to pull up the soundboard. Yay! I am the guest host tonight at Agent_70 on Twitter. Our co-host tonight is one at Roddycat on Twitter.
What's up, everybody?
He's
Eve.
There you go. Not with us tonight are our fellow co-hosts at TimDog98 on Twitter and at PCN_dirt on Twitter. They are off taking care of their business. We can absolutely cheer people off taking care of their business. If you are not familiar with our show, you can follow us via various forms of social media. You can follow myself at Agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram. You can follow at Roddycat on Twitter at Roddycat and at News Nerds Need. And also, he runs our CB Cron Instagram account at CBCaps. Follow our absent co-hosts at PCN_dirt on Twitter and at PopCultureNet on Twitter. And at TimDog98 on Twitter and at The KLIQ Nation on Twitter. TimDog also runs the at CB Cron Comic Book Chronicles account. And find our show on our website, www.thekliqnation.com. You can find our podcast on cspn.us. Do it today. You can subscribe to our podcast through various means, through Google Play, iTunes, Stitcher Radio, etc., etc. Also, remember to support us by shopping for CSPN related merchandise at shop.cspn.us. All right, so I knocked out the plugs fairly quickly tonight. So let's jump into our comic book reviews for this week, the next to last week of October. And prior to the show, we discussed starting off with a kind of timely issue because of some of the trailers that have dropped in the past week and some action figures that dropped today too. Some images that I hope that we have in the news later and we can talk about.
Oh, we do.
So what I'm referring to is this month's issue of Black Panther number 166. It's actually focused on, I guess, the never before told origin of one Ulysses Claw.
I feel like at the very least part of it may have been told at some point, probably in some former version or earlier version of Black Panther book or something.
Right.
Or someplace else, who knows? But I got a feeling there's some part of it probably came out somewhere, who knows? But yeah, this was definitely what could be conceived as a full-fledged or nearly full-fledged origin story for Ulysses S.
I was about to say maybe even the first time we are seeing him in a somewhat sympathetic light.
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
Very well be the first time. I do not recall ever reading. Obviously, there is a note in this issue to take a look at. Is it at the very end in the letters page?
You know, I didn't read the letters page.
No, there is a reference to the first time that Claw.
Oh, yes.
I don't know
Yeah,
if letter stage
it was.
was during.
I do remember it was a panel that yeah, it was a panel that was. I remember the panel, but I don't remember where it was referencing that it's
It was
referencing.
it was referencing, I believe, an Avengers issue, and
Yeah,
uh, just scrolling through our review copies just to see um, where that is, because it would be interesting to go back and read that now after reading this and kind of having a fairly good um, foundation of knowledge for the story of Claw. Roddy Cat and I were discussing just before the show, like how far back our recollections go when it comes to the character and some of the iterations and transformations he's gone through over the past, let's say 30, 40, 50 years. And, it's interesting that this is, like I said earlier, this really does feel like the first time he's portrayed in a somewhat sympathetic light. Now, I don't know if you want to necessarily spoil everything that's discussed here, because I doubt this is going to become part of MCU canon. I doubt this is a story note that was sent over to Ryan Coogler, but you never know.
yeah, I would imagine it's probably more so than, hey, if there are any new readers to Black Panther who don't necessarily know the story of Claw, this is for their benefit, not necessarily going into the
Into the movie.
cinematic universe.
Sure, sure. Well,
Just a little bit of overlay happens.
of course. But as I said, this is the first time we're seeing him in a sympathetic light. And what did you think of it?
I like you. I was like, huh, yeah. This whole backstory of Claude thing was not necessarily out of left field, but definitely something like, yeah, I guess we never really. I don't recall of any fully fleshed out origin for him. So yeah, it was kind of interesting for that. But at the same time, I was thinking to myself, okay, how is any of this going to play into the story going forward outside of you know maybe being a tied to the forthcoming movie, which and then, which granted that's still a couple of months off, so it would still be also kind of early for that to happen. But then again, in this day and age, it's never too early for something like that.
Right.
Um, yeah, trying to make Claw a kind of a sympathetic villain in any way kind of just rubs me the wrong way, just a slight bit. But
But right at the same time, the best villains are kind of sympathetic.
yeah, like, okay, there was a wrinkle introduced. Well, it's quote unquote introduced in the story. That's like, okay, well, we see some motivations here,
Mhm.
so it doesn't give us full motivations because it's like, okay,
Right. This is sort of like a an interlude in this longer story arc
hmm
where several factions are trying to as always take down T'Challa and disrupt the kingdom of Wakanda, so or the fledgling republic of Wakanda.
right, and which in a way kind of makes sense because who would you bring up in um to kind of help bring down a nation that has been previously unconquered than the man who's come close to causing some havoc in said
Sure.
kingdom.
So is Leonard Kirk the new ongoing artist?
I believe that is the case. Yeah,
Got
because and this is his
Maiden Voyage. Yeah.
which his art's pretty good and is it's
It's consistent.
it
What I
is
like about it is that it's consistent. I don't know if I don't know if I've completely warmed to his versions of these characters yet, simply because we've mostly seen other characters other than T'Challa.
right,
I
right,
don't
and
know if that's
I've
how
got
you feel about
used
it.
Stelfreeze's and Sprouse's art, you know in previous issues is like it's enough to make you take notice, but it is still good looking art. So
And Stelfreeze is still doing covers, right?
I believe that's the case. Yes.
Right. All right, that's cool. Yeah, he probably just couldn't keep up with that monthly grind. It's tough.
Yeah. Or got other stuff to do.
Sure.
Can't blame the man. Um. But yeah, so
Any other feelings on the issue, like without spoiling too much? You know what I mean? Not that there's much to spoil
I
because
mean, we've pretty much said a whole bunch. Like this is basically Claus coming in to Claus coming in as per interest last issue, but
right.
this issue we're pretty much just getting his origin story, like we said earlier. So not
Getting
much
to
else.
know
Don't
you,
even see,
getting to know all about you.
which, like I said, it's like this is yeah, like Matt said, the monthly grind is kind of tough. Like, hey, imagine trying to do bi-weekly or weekly issues, and
Sure.
especially on the artist, that can't be good. But but yeah, like this is basically just an intro to Claw for
The
probably more
unneeded.
than likely movie reasons and going into the story arc also, but more than likely serving movie reasons just as much as anything else. Like no one else really shows up from the cast or anything, you know, during the course of this book. So you take that for what it is.
Sure. Anything from your notes before? Oh, I see it. Fantastic Four. I was wrong. It was a Fantastic Four issue. Fantastic Four, number 65.
There we go.
No, 53. I apologize.
Right.
50. FF number 53. That is definitely within the league.
Sometimes they've been getting better about doing in certain cases, like throwing in a little footnote to where you could find out more about the character and or where something happened, which they used to do heavily back in the day, but they kind of went away from it. So I wonder
Yeah,
this.
I think Kisada was the regime that really pushed that out the door in the hopes of having stories move along briskly.
Right.
I believe that was the intention of that. So
I
it's nice
suppose
to
I
see it.
kind of
Like you
missed
said,
it
it's nice to see it
because
come back.
yeah, like I missed that because it was like I was the one who was like, wait a minute, when did that happen? Let me go and read back and if it wasn't already fresh in my mind, let me go back and check that out. Especially if
Got
it
it.
was like a book I hadn't read or something.
Yep. All right. So how about we do this? Since it's just the two of us, how about we run a tag team through our books?
Shout out to Chubb Rock.
Ha. So, um, you want to take the next book, and I'll follow up with the review.
Sure. Since we're still on the Marvel train here, you know what? And there's something else I should have been doing in the course of this whole time. Um, grab the books here.
Oh, you don't have to put them up, dude. Don't worry about it because it might be too much for you know for the two of us.
And what's good as a challenge if you don't have one, right?
Ha.
Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur number 24.
Alrighty.
So after the events of last issue, Lunella is partnerless. So this is her in 3 little vignettes in this issue. I actually get guest artist. My words are failing me in that right now. It's great. 3 vignettes with different guest artists in them. One of them I know I not necessarily met, but I know I found out about at Heroes Con, and that's Domo Stanton, who was doing DMC books.
Okay.
DMC book. And Ray Anthony Height was the other one. I can't remember if I don't know where his art form. Regardless, so the cool thing about this issue is like we got like 3 little mini stories of new Lunella, I guess looking for a new partner or thinking about getting a new partner now that Devil Dinosaur is out of the picture. One of the first ones to be specific, if you're looking at the cover, you see Mojo and the X Babies. So that's of course Mojo shows up at the weirdest times, and if you know anything about Mojo and the Mojo verse and the X Babies, you know what he was there for. The second vignette was Ghost Rider, which this one's also neat because it was coincidentally a race as Lunella was trying to get somewhere, it was a race between like three different Ghost Riders of different time periods. There was one on a big wheel.
That's funny.
Yeah, I think somebody else tweeted a picture of it. But there's a dude. There was a like a gentleman Ghost Rider with the the old timey big bicycle with the big wheel in the front and a little small wheel in the back.
That's
But it's all in flames, and so there's that dude, and then there was what I'm going to only assume is Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider.
okay.
Because like I said, the race was interrupted for a second because of something happening, and we didn't see a car, so what definitely wasn't Robbie Reyes.
Right.
So, but the race ended up happening and causing some
Well,
confusion.
I was about to say, did you mention that the third Ghost Rider is on a looks like Power Wheels? No, not Power Wheels, a big wheel.
He was on a big wheel, yeah.
Yeah.
That was pretty cute. But and it was a race through the city, and like I said, Lunella was trying to help out with that, and all the while monologuing, internal monologuing, you know.
There's
The whole,
a great panel, the same page with the three Ghost Riders and Lunella, where I guess Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider is talking about how every solstice certain Ghost Riders are summoned to race across a track, and the hell track this time is Yancey Street, burning down the quarter mile from Essex to Houston. And I'm like, oh no. It's like our Fast and Furious memories get jogged, right?
right, basically. And Houston is just, where's the Houston? I guess it is Houston.
It's Houston in New York, yeah.
Okay. So, but which is where Lunella was trying to get to, because the last vignette was her meeting with one Matt Murdock, aka Daredevil, at Foggy's law office, and jokingly trying to talk about trying to get Ghost Rider out of a ticket, but and Matt seems to be concerned about the fact that this kid is out here trying to be a superhero, and follows her as Daredevil. And guess who shows up? The Hand, which he ends up fighting, but you know, whatever. And then they have a little talk, and then that ends that. But finally, at the end of it all, we also get a cameo from one ever-loving, blue-eyed reader and his hothead friend, as my notes says, leading into the next issue. So you can pretty much guess where that's going. And it looks like she may or may not have settled up on a partnership with that cameo.
That's funny.
So, like I said, it was a. I enjoyed reading this. It was a pretty neat, especially the different takes.
Yeah, it seems entertaining. I'm looking forward to reading that. That's cool.
Like, even with everything I've said, it's like it doesn't even spoil what goes on in the book. It's just like
sure
happen. So this issue was a treat, I would say.
That's cool. All right, so my turn. So the next book I read this week was All New Wolverine number 26. It's the second part of a story entitled Orphans of X. The orphans in question in this are actually Daken and Laura, the two respective children / clone children of one Logan, aka Wolverine. And Daken has been taken prisoner by some, I guess, a group that is out to get mutants. And Laura has basically rescued what appears to be her. Spoiler alert. Laura has rescued what appears to be her long thought dead mother. And there are things afoot. Not everything is as it seems, as is revealed in the pages of this book. It turns out that Daken and X-23 / Wolverine / Laura are going to end up having to work together to avoid getting killed by the infamous Muramasa blade, which is a relatively recent a creation in the X universe, which it's a blade that has been specifically forged to counteract mutants with healing factors, so that it can kill Wolverine and people who are like Wolverine. So, um, that's the crux of the issue, is that, we're moving towards these two not quite so happy siblings working together to confront, a group that is out to get them. So that's the crux of this issue. It's a pretty action filled issue. It moves forward pretty quickly, but it still seems like a semi decent jumping on point. I don't believe I read part 1 of this. I may have, I don't recall, but it seemed like this issue definitely picked up in, in a decent place that you could, easily, open the issue and kind of read from there without really knowing too much about the characters, other than that they are the children of Wolverine. So, with that knowledge, you can, pick this up and, go forth.
All right. Should be like typing this stuff up while I'm doing this. This is great.
It's okay, don't worry.
Eh,
What do you got next?
what I have next is. Oh, that's you. I was about to say I didn't read that.
Stop looking at my list.
All right. Wait,
What's next?
Um, here we go. America number 8. As I pull this up. So we have one America Chavez back at Sotomayor University. She is back from her spring break. She has moved into the DeGrasse Tyson dorm.
Oh my gosh.
For science folk with her bestie Prodigy. But as things tend to happen for poor America, things don't stay all nice and neat. All that quickly, all that long, because we get some skullduggery in the form of a disguised exterminatrix, whom you see here on the cover, who causes some issues on campus and basically sets a trap or seemingly sets a trap for America, which
it sounds like I need that sound effect right now, huh?
I know, right?
Anyway, go on. I'm sorry to interrupt. It's just that it seems so apropos just after we were talking about it.
Indeed. But yeah, so the exterminatrix is on campus disguised as the new member. There's been a kidnapping of a professor that America likes, that she's been talking to. Not like that, just to have been whatever. But the most other thing you could say about this is like I said, as the issue goes by, you see some things going on, folk, which you kind of wonder. The thing that had me wondering about was like, wait, this is happening, but she doesn't see, which I guess now to think about it, she does end up saying, like, there are certain things that this disguised staff member, without her knowing who it is, does that seemed to be stacked against America. Because basically what happens is, like, because of there was an early issue where I think the university was attacked by of course America led the way in
Defending
and taking care of that. But this was brought up as an issue, and also some mindless ones from the last little bit of an arc, which wasn't on campus, got brought up, and they ended up causing a little bit of havoc on the campus, which is supposed to be protected. But of course, there was some chicanery going on, and because of the security protocols that were circumvented for them to get in. Like I said, all of this being an elaborate trap. And where we leave this issue, going into the next one, seemingly has America in the clutches of this enemy, or so she thinks.
Okay.
But yeah, I've been enjoying it, America. It's been an interesting read for certain. You know, where this arc is going to go outside of this revenge thing, I'm not entirely sure. But you know,
Alrighty.
Exterminatrix was an enemy from the very first book from the very first issue, who's kind of taking an interest in America. Hence her need for revenge. So,
Right.
which may be leading to something a little bit bigger if the last arc, you know, says anything. But time will tell on that one.
All right. Sticking with Marvel, I'm going to jump to Captain Marvel number 125. Just very quickly, we're dealing with the immediate aftermath of the destruction of the Alpha Flight space station and the grounding, basically, of Alpha Flight post Secret Empire. So what we found is even with T'Challa as one of the main backers of the Alpha Flight program, they are not able to, as of yet, recreate the entirety of the program, including a space station. If you recall, the earlier in the Captain Marvel series, she had to agree to have a character of hers, a character based on her or her life story told in a movie or on television to help pay for the space station. That's apparently not happening again. So the Alpha Flight program is effectively grounded. And this issue deals with some of the immediate after effects of that. Some of these Alpha Flight members are destined for a little bit of R&R, and Captain Marvel's having some issues with that. We immediately pick up with the storyline that was running through the Captain Marvel book just prior to Secret Empire, which involves a Kree, a Kree youngster who is visiting Carol in an energy form, and I guess the hunter that is tasked with um, capturing this being. So if you're not familiar with that, you may want to read the recap page or go back and check out the issues of Captain Marvel pre-Secret Empire. Um, it's kind of a nice restart to the Captain Marvel book, because while it's important to know what happened in Secret Empire and how we've gotten to the point where they're literally salvaging 70s and 80s era space shuttles and trying to make them space worthy. At the same time, here we are, we're jumping right back into the thick of this Kree centric storyline. So ultimately what we are now, where we are now, is a cliffhanger where we're not 100% sure where the members of Alpha Flight and Captain Marvel are, because of something that happens with the it's kind of stereotypical with the space-time continuum, right? No, someone basically gets teleported. We're not sure who or where. So that's our cliffhanger ending. It's as I said earlier, it's going to help if you go back and kind of backtrack prior to the stories of Secret Empire. But if you're literally just coming into this not knowing what's been happening, you could pick this up and just get a basic understanding of why Alpha Flight is in the state that it's in, and the story's going from there.
So you've kept up with the book, right?
Here and there.
Yeah.
Here and there. I'm passingly familiar with most of what they were talking about. So, I can't say I read everything. Obviously it did help that I was reading some of it during Secret Empire.
Right. Yeah, and I think I was reading some of it before and then just kind of fell off of it around probably shortly before.
Right. So there is this storyline with this, like kind of ninja Kree type,
I remember that.
person, and that person's back. So
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Well, then next up, I believe that's me. Let's see. We will go to. I guess we'll start rounding out the Marvel corner here. Okay, I actually got to bring this one up. I know I was going to save this one, but U.S. Avengers number 11.
I started reading this, but then I think my subway ride ended, and I hope that you're going to touch on the very opening of this issue,
Not only, yes,
like within the first like 3 or 4 pages.
yes. So definitely yes. So basically, during Secret Empire, all that kind of stuff, it was thought that Cannonball, aka Sam Guthrie, was lost. Nope, he was stolen by space aliens and sold off.
As
Which,
people are want to,
exactly. Which sends which after all that Secret Empire's stuff is said and done, worried spouse Izzy, aka oh shoot, Smasher, sends a message to Roberto da Costa saying, "Hey, he's still alive. So, and I know where he is. Let's go get him." So here we are in this issue where he finds himself in, if this cover is any indication, a small town U.S. American city, may or may not be based off of a long running cartoon series that it now has a show on the CW about it right now, although the town is not the CW version. Riverdale. Excuse me. So yeah, he finds himself here, and he's still in outer space, mind you. And apparently, what is going on, he has no idea, but you kind of get the sense of what is going on during the course of it, even though you don't know to what end it is. But it's kind of funny how the parallels between the Archie Comics characters, I'll just go ahead and say it, and the characters in this book are almost blatant.
Right, they're blatant either copies or homages.
I would say a little bit of both.
Yeah,
It is pretty direct, if you look at the characters and if you think about it. But that's kind of the joy in this book, and because Al Ewing's pretty much still having fun with this book, because there's a couple of other things that happens that evoke another age. It's kind of funny because it's like the crew is trying to get to Sam, but they get met by some space pirates, and Smasher's like, oh, I don't know how they did that, but they must be using some high technology, and it's a bunch of 1920s, 30s gangsters.
sure.
And, yeah, exactly. With that, with that excellent that they get intercepted by. So, like I said, it's this book continues to be a lot of fun, for I guess however long it's going to last. Because I'm assuming with that upcoming store, Avengers store, we don't know how many Avengers books we're going to end up having.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain this book is going the way of the dodo. So hopefully Al Ewing is going to have a lot of fun with this.
Yeah, and like I said, and he has been, doing his run of this and Ultimates and other books he's done. So, if you enjoyed fun homages and stuff, then yeah, you will definitely like this issue specifically. But like the U.S. Avengers, like I didn't think it was gonna write like U.S. Avengers, but like I said, it was Al Ewing, so it was definitely worth that, if anything else.
I mean, just to get back to the issue, the crux of the story and the cliffhanger ending really does explain a lot of what this issue really is.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll leave it at that. I'll leave it to you, loyal listeners and viewers, to read this issue and get to that point and understand. Oh, that's what's going on.
I mean, and like I said, halfway through reading this, you kind of get the sense already. It was like, okay, but at the same time, like reading to it and getting to the end, it's like, huh, all right.
Mm-hmm.
Like it is kind of funny because once you get to the end, like even Sam's got kind of gotten a clue as to what's going on, because like he sees the person like, oh, okay, now I'm starting to get it.
Yeah. Rocket legs. All I could think of when I read that just now was Forrest Gump when he's talking about Lieutenant Dan with his magic legs, titanium steel.
I have
That's a callback.
going for, yeah.
Magic legs.
I was actually, and yeah, I was actually expecting that person to go another place, like almost a Joker, like no one told me he had. Actually, I think the character did kind of say something similar, like no one told me he had rocket legs or something like that. But yeah, like I said, this issue was pretty fun. So
All right, that's cool. So next up, we'll stay in the Marvel because I still got a few Marvels to go. Daredevil number 28. This is a wrap up to a recent kind of a brief story arc that involved the reappearance of one former sidekick of Daredevil named the Blind Spot, who suffered a pretty terrible injury at the hands of a previous antagonist whose name I honestly can't recall. But he had, spoiler alert, lost his eyes at the hands of this serial killer. I believe it was an Inhuman. I can't recall the character's name right away, but at the end of the day, what's happened in this is the hand has reached out and gotten to Blind Spot, and Blind Spot led Daredevil into a trap. It's a trap, and it's a brief story arc that ultimately leads to the redemption of Blind Spot after his betrayal of Matt Murdock and Daredevil. So, as brief as this little interlude arc is, it's nice to see that they haven't, that Soul hasn't completely written off the character of Blind Spot, and he's redeemed him, even if it did seem rather quick and rather easy. But he is back on the side of the good guys, and we basically lead right into the current situation in New York post Secret Empire, involving Matt Murdock's pretty much his greatest nemesis, that is one Wilson Fisk, and we're told right away in this issue that certain things have happened that have been teased in other issues and other comics regarding Wilson Fisk's rise to public office, his election to public office. So that's where we end up. So that will be the first Marvel Legacy issue for Daredevil number 595 coming up next month.
When does Fisk become president? And where is it?
Mayor?
Nope. No, I'm skipping mayor.
Oh yeah, ha ha.
Kind of get a Luthor thing going on.
Yeah, right. No, he's making him mayor of New York City. So,
all right. But seriously, where's Echo?
Oh no, let's not go there. Kofefi, but
oh,
that's where it goes.
Yeah,
I got a feeling Wilson Fisk is slightly smarter than 45.
That goes without saying in a lot of cases. But moving on, let's see. I think we're about rounding out my Marvel stuff.
Right, I've only got 2 left.
That's cool. Yeah, I think this is my last one here, and that is from the Star Wars corner. Star Wars Mace Windu, Jedi of the Republic, which reversed those last 2, and you got it. Yeah. So yeah, the crux of the story is they're still on this planet trying to defeat the Separatists, but so there's 4 Jedi. There's Mace Windu, there's Risa Mano, Kit Fisto, and Prosit Dibs. So Mason and Risa are all fighting, but they ended up going off to try to find the enemy stronghold, while Kit Fisto and Prosit Dibs are underground trying to help some people, and that doesn't go that well, which causes Master Prosit, who already had issues with why Jedis are involved in the war in the way that they are, And this kind of comes into a boil later on in the issue where he and Mace Windu exchange some words, or more to the point, he exchanges words with our Master Mace Windu, which leads up to a potential fight coming next issue. And on the other side of the story, we find out that the mercenary droid ADW4, I want to call him WD-40 for some stupid reason, got his assignment on this planet mainly for money, but he also got it from one General Grievous, which, surprise, surprise, because of this, because of where the story takes place. Sure, of course he's involved. But so we find that out first, and then Grievous kind of shows up later on in a hollow vid, wanting something from A4, or yeah, which A4 does not have because he thought he had killed Mace Windu, which did not happen. So now, which leads A4 to go after our team to remedy that situation. But like I said, the crux of the issue is, as I said before, and these two Jedi are about to fight, which seems to be ill-timed, but I guess unless the fight's not going to happen next issue, this is where we're left off. But it also seemed like it was something like this was going to end up happening because, there's things like this happen in situations.
Sure.
So outside of that, like I said, it's a decent read. I mean, these little miniseries, these Star Wars miniseries kind of come and go. What place it's going to leave it in at the end of it, who knows? But enjoyed the Dennis Cowan's art.
And, right. It is good.
Mm-hmm. And whatever story, if you are a Star Wars fan, you're probably going to pick this up anyway because you're a Star Wars fan, more than likely.
Right.
So yeah, there we go.
Alrighty. So next up, I'm only going to touch on this briefly because I know that Roddy Cat is endeavoring to catch up to this issue, which is the final, sad to say, issue of Dan Slott's run and the All Reds, their run on Silver Surfer. This is issue number 14. And I admit I am behind on this by a number of issues. I cannot recall exactly where we left off, but I felt that, I was familiar enough with the story that I could dive into this knowing that it's the last issue and kind of catching up, and letting Slott and the All Reds kind of tell their story and help me, get to where we are now. The fun part about this issue is that it actually does do some recounting of the stories that Slott has told over the course of the last 2 volumes of Silver Surfer. So, it goes to, the introduction of Dawn Greenwood and the Surfers, introduction to that family. Believe it or not, there are a couple of loose ends tied off in this that I guess Slott had done some long form planning on, because I kind of recall some of these story aspects from way, way early on, and now they're coming back, and exactly, and these particular plot points are being tied off. So I definitely agree with you, Roddy Cat, that it probably would be wise to go back and reread and make sure that you're up to date on this so that everything sort of makes sense and all the connections are made. This is going to end up being one of those fun trade paperback or omnibus reads that you could just pull, sit down with, for either a long ride or just a long, like on a rainy day, and just kind of read through, because it'll be fun. It'll all make sense. Being read in one sitting. So, like I said, I'm not spoiling anything. It is basically a long recounting of the tales of the travels and adventures of Norrin Radd and Dawn Greenwood. But it's a heartwarming story. So, I would say that while it's not the most reader friendly issue, because it does require basically some foreknowledge of what's been going on in this issue in this book up till now. But I think it's a good impetus for people to go back and reread this run of Silver Surfer, which has been pretty good for the most part because it's mostly lived outside of the events in the Marvel Universe, and they've allowed Slott to basically tell his story, which is a little offbeat. It's not necessarily the villain of the month type story because of the introduction of the Dawn Greenwood supporting character, but it's still very, very well told. And the All Reds, as always, are stupendously consistent with their art. So I definitely recommend this book to anyone who I think is just looking for something slightly offbeat, but still, fun and heartwarming.
Yeah, I think offbeat is pretty much the right word for this whole volume, because yeah, it's like you don't get any, like you said, you don't get any just hard and fast. But here's the hero, here's the villain, kind of stuff like that. You just basically get a bunch of stories, whether small or big, but some kind of way they end up interconnecting with each other. And Slot definitely has had a way of kind of uh basically like making this one big story out of a bunch of little stories, including stories within stories. And because there was what I know the last issue I finished was basically um just them two telling stories while they were in the mouth of a big giant space whale,
Right.
about this other character that I don't recall actually being in any of the stories, but might have. Like I said, it's been a while. But nevertheless, like I said, ends up being for a point. So yeah, offbeat is definitely something for this volume. But it's also been good because, like I said, as much has been put into it, and as much as it might seem a little out of the way, um, as comics go, story wise, then yeah, it's definitely been some fun to them in
Sure.
reading. So kind of missed this Civil Surfer, definitely. Because like even coming into it, it was like, well, this is a different bit of storytelling that we've gotten throughout this whole thing,
Absolutely.
but
Agreed.
it's also been solid at the same time.
Agreed.
So, all right. So what we have next? I believe you said you had one more Marvel, right?
I have one more Marvel, so if that's it for the Marvels, I'll finish off with Thanos number 12. I do have a click of the week, but I'm going to talk about that on its own.
Awesome.
Um,
All right.
and I understand it's also one of the books that Tim Dog 98 read this week. So
Yes.
my last Marvel book that I'll discuss in this portion of the show is Thanos number 12. I actually assumed this was the last issue of Thanos, but it is not. It is the final issue, though, of this particular story arc, which involves Thanos battling with his son Thane um, in a knockdown, drag out, like no holds barred type fashion, with Thane being pumped up in power with the aid of the Phoenix Force. So it's interesting to see the Phoenix Force being wielded by someone and still not being the equivalent of Thanos, which kind of leads you to think, kind of question what Thanos's power levels are, even without the Infinity Gauntlet. So,
Oh
or
my
even one gem.
goodness.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like seriously, like he's taking on the Phoenix on his own. Granted, it's not uh, one of the psychic wielders of the Phoenix Force, a la Jean Grey and or Rachel Summers. And I wonder if those characters, given their power sets, how they affect the actual Phoenix Force and how they wield it. But getting back to the story, what my understanding is that this kind of mirrors some New God stuff with High Father and Orion, or Darkseid and Darkseid and Mr. Miracle, or Orion, because it's definitely some father son issues at the end of the world, where in DC it would be the Source Wall. In Marvel, in this version of the cosmic universe, they find themselves at, what is this? It's very much like the source wall. It is the God Quarry, and the God Quarry looks like, very, a similar in aesthetic. It's similar in aesthetic to um, the DC version of the source wall. So you can definitely draw parallels to Darkseid and or Orion and or Mr. Miracle and Thanos's search for accompanying search for love, in death, as opposed, as a counterpart to Darkseid's search for the anti-life equation.
Right.
So, the parallels between the characters, as always, have always been, somewhat strong, but again, I think they're being emphasized here. The representation of death in this series is very reminiscent of the death character from the DC Vertigo books, but she kind of meets an end. But can death really meet an end? At the end of the day, in this story, things are kind of reset in the wake of the battle between Thanos and Thane. Um, Essentially, Thanos has been restored to his former power. If you recall, at the beginning of the miniseries or the series, Thanos was said to be dying of disease, but apparently he has been restored to full strength and going into Legacy. This kind of similar to what we were saying before with Black Panther. This is sort of setting up Thanos for big things, kind of in conjunction with Thanos' role in the Marvel Cinematic Universe coming up.
Interesting. I wonder if this, or if anything out of this, is going to play into the upcoming stuff with Jean Grey, being that the
With
Phoenix
the
Force.
resurrection,
Yeah,
possibly.
because I think it doesn't. Because I think young Jean Grey, isn't she running around with a pet Phoenix Force thing?
I don't believe so.
I don't know.
I'm not 100% sure. I'm not reading X-Men Blue, so couldn't tell you.
But I
Normally
think
reading
also has a book.
the
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I don't know. I saw a image from her book with her with a bird cage that had something on fire in it, presumably a Phoenix Force like bird thing in it.
Gotcha.
Doesn't necessarily mean that the two are going to, come together, but you got to wonder, especially if the Phoenix Force is kind of split like it is, or seemingly split like it is.
We will see. All right, so that is it from my Marvel, except for my click of the week. That's a
Um,
spoiler right there.
oh, Tim's got something actually. He read Amazing Spider-Man 790.
Right, that's what I was getting to. That's my click of the week. Ha ha ha.
Okay, then we will save that.
Yeah, the rest of his books are
DC.
DC, so we can jump into DC now.
Which, yeah, and I'm looking through his list because, as a matter of fact, I will go ahead and do Teen Titans number 13 since he and I both read that also. Boop, boop, boop. And actually, we pretty much had the same notes. So, the crux of the book is the team wants Kid Flash back, and they go off to try to try to recruit him back. Pardon me. While Robin, being as stubborn as dickhead as Amy can be, kind of doesn't want that, but he's like, you know what? If you want him back so bad, go for him. Meanwhile, Robin's trying to recruit a character I didn't know too much about in the form of Emiko Oliver, or Queen, excuse me, which, if that name sounds familiar to you, is the little sister of or half sister of Oliver Queen, aka the Green Arrow. I almost called her Thea, which I did in in my notes. I called her Thea as a joke, but
Is that a TV thing?
yeah, because
Okay.
yeah,
Because that's when you lose me.
yeah. I mean I might be wrong about this, but it seems like they might be taking maybe one or two notes from that. This character, however, has some similarities with Damien. Apparently, they met during well, and actually, part of it is because Damien goes after to recruit her, partially on the insistence of Green Arrow, actually, because he apparently met him, I guess, at that during that Gotham Underground issue, somewhere in Meadow, and it might have been that Teen Titans issue where they crossed over. I believe was the case may be, but they met, and according to Damien, he's not sure, but respects may or may not be the term he'd use, but that sounds like as close as we're gonna get from him. So, and the Green Arrow probably somewhere mentioned that Emiko should join the team to kind of help her out, and they seem to be kindred spirits because they're both hard-headed and think they can do everything by themselves and are pretty much quite skilled enough to do what whatever they set their mind to do, but think of themselves a little bit more than, and their power, their skills more than them or anybody else do. Put it that way. So, like I said, while the team tries to recruit Kid Flash, Damien goes off to find her, and he does, and then they get into a squabble with Onomatopoeia, which they thought they saved today, but another little wrinkle ends up happening, and they have to go back and fix the mess that they made, which looks like is going to endanger Star City. And that's where this issue is. And I think, let's see, what does Tim say about that? Yeah, Robin tries to rescue Green Arrow's half-sister Red Arrow onto the team. Even with their commonality, she refuses for now, which did actually happen, but apparently she likes Damien's bat winged thingy. So, yeah. There is also a part of that seemed like does Damien not just want her on the team because she's capable? Like, granted, Damien at times also come across kind of creepy in his research of people, not unlike his father, actually, as to how much he knows about them. So his first impression with her was not great, but at the same time, you could read into it as he seems maybe a little taken with her. I'm reading that part into it myself, but who knows? Damien might find a love interest. We don't know. Doubt if they're going to do that in this, but that would make for a funny story. So yeah, that's that.
Alrighty. So you guys did Titans. Let me cover, I guess, the one DC book I've got this week. It's one of the Dark Knight's Metal one-shots. It's Batman the Merciless, which is the version of Batman that is based on the mythology of the Wonder Woman series of I guess characters, because this is the Bruce Wayne of a universe in which, spoiler alert, the Bruce Wayne gains the power of the god of war Ares, and all sorts of things happen as a result of the decisions made to combat the forces of evil. Very much like the other one shots where Batman basically co-ops certain powers of his fellow Justice Leaguers because he can't he can't do certain things. In this one, he's unable to save or defeat one of the Greek gods until he's able to literally put on a helm that gives him the powers of a god, and everything goes south from there because give Batman the power of a god and all hell's gonna break loose, and that's the premise of the story. So there's also a meanwhile aspect to this issue.
Meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice.
So there's also meanwhile, because we're also talking about the after effects of what this battle means to the Earthlings who are tasked with protecting this particular Earth in which Batman has basically taken on the powers of a mad Olympian god. So it's interesting to see, how the two factions are kind of figuring out what to do, and ultimately we come down to, what this particular Bruce Wayne's motivations are, given some of the things that happen in this issue and why he acts the way he acts, why he dons this particular helmet. So it was actually a pretty interesting read. Some of these one shots have been pretty not just not entertaining. I know that PCN_dirt mentioned that he was not a fan of the Aquaman version that came out, I believe, last week. I know that the Red Death one, which is the one based on the Flash, based on Batman acquiring Flash powers, was fairly entertaining, and I generally like this one too. So I can count this one among the better, uh, 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 this Knights stuff, Metal Knights or whatever, one shots. This is one of the better ones.
All right. Yeah, I don't know. Looks like at some point I'm going to find myself reading this crossover or this miniseries, I guess.
It'll be like when it's like me finally catching up on Game of Thrones because the Mets finally sucked. I finally had some time to binge watch some of this television and catch up. You'll
That's
find
the
you'll
team.
find something that'll, I was gonna say it may not be a sports team, but you'll find something either, hits a point where you're not watching it and you're looking for something new, and you'll be like, you know what? I'm gonna read this Dark Knight's Metal stuff.
Probably. Yeah, I've been trying to get especially since we got year-end stuff coming together, at some time before then, some of the stuff will get read for certain.
Sure, while the family or the missus is wrapping up Christmas presents, be like, yeah, you do that. I'm gonna do this.
Yeah, really.
So
Let's see. So actually, I'm gonna get to Tim's last DC book and mine, which are two different ones. Let's see. Well, so Tim's is Flash 33, which is also another Dark Knight Metal tie-in. It is part one, as he says, part one of the Bats Out of Hell, where the Justice League squares off against the dark multiverse Batman. And that is Tim's notes about that. My book is Rough and Ready, the Rough and Ready Show, #1. So this is one of those Hanna-Barbera. This is off the actual deep bench of the Hanna-Barbera universe. One that I'm not entirely familiar with, but you kind of know it. So I would say this is like a Tom and Jerry, Roadrunner, Coyote type of situation with these two. But this has been kind of DCized because these so Rough and Ready are two actors who, if this were a real world parallel, would be like Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis type of situation, but of the cartoon variety. So this issue kind of goes through the time frame of where they're at their heyday to where the current, quote unquote current day, where they've kind of fallen off, they've taken different life journeys, let's say. So Rough, which believe it or not is the cat, not the dog. Wait, make sure that's right. Doesn't matter,
dude.
Yeah, see, like I said, this is from the head. I looked this up earlier, but I think Rough is the cat and Reddy is the dog.
Okay.
And because like this is I know my Hanna-Barbera fairly decently. I don't know these cats or dogs. But regardless, like I said, they are a comedy duo during the 50s and 60s. While it looks like on set, or excuse me, on screen, they look like they're, best of buzz and this and that and other. But as tends to be the case in the real world, as comedy duos go, it's not like that in real life, and there's some animosity between them, which grows and grows and grows over time until they end up splitting apart, and like I said, going their separate ways. Um, Ruff ends up doing acting stuff, while Reddy kind of does, but his decline ends up going down, where Ruff's seems to be doing all right up until a certain point. Like I think one of the last major things he did was he was in this universe's equivalent of Law and Order. And I think Reddy ends up at a Home Depot or something like that. I don't know whatever it's going to be, but so you kind of see like I said, the slow decline from the 50s and through, I guess, the 80s or now, whatever the case may be. But at the end of this issue, you see this talent agency try to pick them up for something we don't know about, but apparently, I guess during this what looks to be a 6-issue miniseries, them trying to gain their popularity back. But it seemed like during whatever this talent agent wants them to do. So, but yeah, like I said, I initially I picked this up because of the curiosity of how they've been treating the Hanna-Barbera stuff lately. This one I kind of wasn't going to, because I didn't know the characters too much for the most part, and two, and this is not a knock against the writer, but I kind of felt like I knew what I was going to expect. This is being written by Howard Chaykin.
Of course.
There you go. So if you know much of how his work tends to go, this kind of has some of that in there.
Sure. It's just interesting because, well, go ahead. You make your point, and then I just had something to add.
No, go ahead.
All right. So ultimately, when I saw that you had read this book, I didn't just really notice this title in our review, in our list of review books. But all I could think of was this.
Okay.
This is all I could think of.
Nice.
That part right there. And there's our music for the show. That's our outro play into the outro of the show. So, Rough and Ready #1, all I could think of was Rough Riders.
Yeah, I know. And I had all kinds of things and not outside of that one on myself. So you were amongst company on that.
That's funny.
But yeah, like I said, the treatment of it was, even with everything I said was aside, like I say, I kind of like the way they've been kind of changing the characterizations of these Hanna-Barbera characters to put a DC spin on them, and in cases a real world, parallel to them as they've ever done. So they've done an all right job. Like I said, this one was kind of whatever it was, because like I said, if you know who wrote it, you kind of take it for what it is. So it's all right.
All right.
I
think we only got a few left.
Yep.
Before we get to clicks of the week.
And actually, I think I only have one more book left. So yeah, I do. So if you got another one you want to throw out there real quick.
Maybe I'll just talk about what's going to end up being my click of the week. It's a little bit of spoilery information right there. But the book I was kind of holding off discussing was Amazing Spider-Man #790. This is another chapter in the saga of the fall of Peter Parker. The storyline is actually entitled, as I pull this up, one more moment. It is The Fall of Parker, Part 2, Breaking Point. So I know that TimDog98 also read this. I'm going to take a quick look at his notes and compare them with what I've got running through my crazy brain. So yes, the crux of the story really is that Peter Parker has to atone for a lot of his acts in the downfall of Parker Industries. Quick note: he had to basically destroy Parker Industries so that Dr. Octopus, who really did have a strong hand in creating the basis for Parker Industries, so that he could keep it out of Ock's deadly hands, basically he torched everything. And while normally that would be an honorable thing, when you're a multinational corporation that employs hundreds, if not thousands, of people, and whose products affects millions of daily lives, there's bound to be pushback and backlash to the destruction of and the downfall of this multinational corporation. And this is another chapter in Peter Parker trying to close the books on Parker Industries. And one aspect of that is basically selling off, um, mild spoiler alert, very mild, very mild, basically has to sell off the Baxter building to pay off his debts, and to help, I guess, with severance packages and whatnot. And the one Human Torch is not very happy with this, because when Peter Parker initially bought the Baxter building and turned it into the headquarters of Parker Industries, he did so with the promise to Johnny Storm that he would be maintaining the Baxter building as a, in not as a museum necessarily, but although he did keep a statue of the FF in there, but also maintaining it as kind of like the inheritor of a great legacy, and trying to keep it out of ne'er do well's hands, and maintaining the heroic legacy that the Fantastic Four had left in that building, including all the scientific inventions that Reed had left behind in the building. So Johnny's not happy about this. While he hasn't lived in the building for a long time, he still considers it home, and he's not all that keen on what's been happening. While Spidey and the Human Torch kind of duke it out, things are kind of happening under their nose. And while they team up to stop it, one of the characters that had been a bit player in the Spider-Man book kind of comes back to the fore as a former reformed villain. May not be so reformed anymore and may have reverted to villainous ways. So that is the basic story arc that we have in this issue. We end up with a cliffhanger that was teased in the last issue of what Peter Parker's future career may be, where he goes from here, because he's going to need a job. It was mentioned not so subtly in the first issue of this new story arc that Mockingbird, post Parker Industries, had basically bounced back and found gainful employment while Peter Parker was vegging out on his sofa, or her sofa. So that is that aspect of the future of the character is further developed in this issue. So I enjoyed this. I like that Slott is putting a lot of effort into establishing a new status quo. That is one of his strengths, even though a lot of us don't necessarily like his stories, in that they take our characters to very painful places. He's definitely very good at planning out the long game. So I give him a lot of credit with that, and we're seeing the long game being played out even in individual issues. There's definitely a lot packed into these. These are not necessarily Bendis style issues here. Without saying too much more, you kind of understand what I mean.
Yeah, but at the same time, if it wasn't for Slott kind of playing this long game and giving us all these stories that tie in with the long game and all stuff, we wouldn't be getting such good stories,
Right.
When it comes to like Spectacular or
Superior.
yeah, Superior Spider-Ham and stuff. I'm so hard of Spider-Man and stuff like that. So, like, I don't know if it would be fair to say that it's Spidey's one of those characters. Like at a certain point, you don't know what to do with, but Slott's been doing a lot with him, so that's not true. But at the same time, if you don't take that character out of the zones that he's already kept in, you can't really get good stories out of him because you just have him doing the same stuff over and over again. So I'm not sure who these people are who are not liking the stories, but who claim to care about the character. You would think they would want something like this.
It's I don't even want to get into that. That's a whole other can of worms. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
into fandom of pop culture nowadays and not wanting to see their characters change or evolve. So
Yeah,
but that's another day. It's another day. So
sure.
what do we have last? Is it Detective Comics?
I no, actually, I let me go ahead and hit mine really, really quick, which would be, and I don't have a book for this. I mean, I don't have a thing for this. Catalyst Prime Incidentals #3. But real quickly, so I think I've said this before about this book. There's some familiarity in this where this story seems like it start trying to do. There's this business person named Chen who's trying to get together this team because apparently there is another threat outside of the one that born the Catalyst Prime event. And there may or may not be some stuff coming from outer space that he's trying to get prepared for outside of the stuff that is like going on Earth with the event and what's happening. So he's trying to find these people for this thing. So there's this one of the persons that they're trying to get a lead on who's being chased by somebody else, that he sends part of this team to try to apprehend and try to get them to come over to their side. But unfortunately, they get captured. And at the same time, Chen himself is trying to woo these other former couples into the fold, even though they have kind of odds with each other because of the event that happened. Um, but it looks like at the end of the issue, like I said, the two things came together because, like I said, the other team that went look for this other person ended up losing the person that they were looking for and have to come back in and report to Chen. But I think at the same time they end up finding this other police detective who's been looking into these strange events, who also may or may not be enhanced themselves, but we don't know that part just yet, or at least he himself doesn't know that himself. But it sounds like someone else does. But like I said, this is just, I don't know. This one is intriguing because of the fact that, like I think I said last week or so, the Catalyst Prime universe is actually has some interest in what's going on with it for me. Like a lot of stuff hasn't really come together because you still have the separate books kind of doing their thing, but you also see things of the world and in the world that kind of permeate through each book.
More
Uh,
than Easter eggs, right?
so
More
what?
more so than just Easter eggs. It's actually like kind of how everything intersects.
There's little bits of that, yes. Like there have been no
Direct crossovers.
there's no been direct crossovers with any of the books, but they do talk of, there is talk of what is going on in the world
Okay.
within each of the books. Like Superb, I think, as we talked about last week, is probably the one that has mentioned a little bit more directly, not necessarily things that happen, but people, or at least one person in particular, which is the quote unquote the bad guy, bad person who caused the event, you might say, for whatever other reason. But that person isn't Noble, which I haven't. There's another thing about it. I need to go back and read the last one. Regardless, though, so they're basically doing separate world buildings. I would imagine at some point there's probably going to build up to an event that's going to have all these characters come together at some point. I'm not sure, but like I said, for now we just have these individuals kind of in their separate corners
Okay.
telling their stories. But you still know, if you are keeping up with that universe, you know of what is kind of going on around it.
Sure. All right. So I guess we can get to clicks of the week and we can do Tim Dog 98's in there too.
Mm,
So here we go. Ready?
do it.
Click of the week. All right. So I've already spoiled mine. That was pretty straightforward. My click of the week is Amazing Spider-Man number 790.
And Tim's is which we haven't talked about, but
Right.
is Detective Comics 967. And his note on that says Batman has been scheming behind his allies back again by creating Brother Eye, which you'd think he'd
He did once already. He's doing again.
yeah. So everything is old as new again, folks.
Right.
And my click of the week might just be the Moon Girl and Devil was pretty good. I think I'll go with U.S. Avengers number 11.
Okay.
That was kind of fun with all the little things that happened within it.
I'm surprised they didn't go with Moon Girl. I like that.
I almost did, because that one also, like, while this was not a week full of standout stuff, there was actually some good stuff to read, and those two books were actually the best out of the pack that I've read.
Sure.
It was kind of close in that one, but like I said, U.S. Avengers was just pretty fun most of the way around.
Cool. All right, so let's move on to our first ad read of the night while Roddy Cat gets ready for the next portion of the show. Please help keep our podcast free by shopping at Amazon. Visit cspn.us, then click the Keep Our Podcasts Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down and click on the Amazon link to shop. Purchase items from Amazon as you normally would, whether it's books, music, electronics, jewelry, apparel, etc., etc. For every purchase made on Amazon through our link, Amazon sends the CSPN a payment that helps us keep the Click Nation's Comic Book Chronicles podcast free for our listeners at no extra cost to you. Amazon.com through cspn.us. Do it today. And now, Roddy, if you're ready, we're ready. High sign. We're hitting for the news.
Sorry, I had myself clicking because I was doing some. I actually
setting up the news.
No, actually, I had already said that before we started, so I was doing some other clicking that I was doing some.
That's what I was anticipating, that you were trying to get up some of these websites that will autoplay, and I'm like, no, let's just read it.
Nah, we still got that to contend with, unfortunately. So if you want to go ahead and start off, let's get on.
You got it. Let's roll. So the Justice League 2 script is already in the works. We haven't even seen Justice League 1, and the script for Justice League 2 is, for at least Roddy Cat, unsurprisingly already in the works. Warner Brothers has officially launched their DC film universe with Zack Snyder's crap, and now has found some success with Wonder Woman, and Justice League is only weeks away. So now that movie's in the can and ready to be released, we find out that Justice League 2 script is in the works.
Yeah, that was the author of this article saying that it was unsurprisingly, which I agree with, because I mean, like, yeah, who didn't think that there wasn't going to be a 2 even before the first one comes out? And I think there was another article about, even though the script is already in the work, I think there's some reworkings of it supposedly that's happening with it. I don't know. I know I saw another article, but I just decided not to put it in there because, hey.
All right.
Next up, Aquaman's his solo film has wrapped filming. So James Wan has I believe that's James Wan.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, I'm sorry. That was
No, it is.
No, this Instagram picture is Jason Momoa.
Oh, who is the star of Aquaman?
So what?
Who is the star of Aquaman?
Exactly. So yeah, the news of the filming wrapping up was by this by Jason Momoa and Amber Heard, who play Aquaman and Mera. And there was a photo that they put out on Instagram. So cool.
Alrighty. So see the DC CW verse. Arrow's Felicity's mom is set to return in season 6. I know who this is because she is played by Charlotte Ross, formerly of NYPD Blue, and the famous scene with the detective. Oh my god, I can't remember his name.
Hey, that was her.
Dipowitz's son. Yes.
All right. Like, well, yeah, I know, Charlotte Ross has done a lot of things, and she's
I just remember. I specifically remember that though.
interesting that you would remember that.
I wonder why I remembered that.
Weird. I don't know. Hey, Mom Smoke's kind of fine, so I'm really gonna, take
There
notes
you
on.
go.
Next up, speaking of Arrowverse, Diggle's run as Green Arrow is not going to last, not surprisingly. So, as of this week, spoiler alert, John Diggle's taken over the duties of the Green Arrow, which he's done before. So I'm not sure why this is. I guess he's doing it on a temporary
longer basis.
Yeah, because then I mean he has donned the helmet, the hoodie before, and a couple of different times. But yeah, I guess this is him heading the team while whatever's going on with Oliver is going on. I haven't been keeping up with Arrow, so I don't know. But apparently, it's not going to last. Party poopers. Next up.
All right. Again, with the television shows, The Flash's latest development teases a new Arrowverse arrival. So apparently, the West family is about to get bigger. I won't spoil everything, but apparently, there is a bun in the oven.
Or I guess if it goes by comics, two. Wait, did they have 1 or 2 kids?
Oh.
I had 2.
I don't remember.
I don't remember either. Regardless, hey, there you go. It's happening. Next up, Legends of Tomorrow reveals Zari's connection to an existing team member. These spoilers, so these articles have had spoilers with them, and not being caught up with these various shows. I'm not even gonna sit here and tell you what it is, because I don't know, because I didn't read it.
Alrighty.
But I think this might have something to do with Zatanna. I am not sure. Or no, it says Vixen. So we're just gonna keep on rolling.
Okay. Next up, there's a report out that Gareth Evans, the director of the Raid movies, is in talks to direct a standalone Deathstroke movie with Joe Manganiello.
So Magic Deathstroke. Gotcha.
Okay.
Actually, I don't know. Yeah. So Gareth Evans, if you don't know, also did the Raid movies. So if you enjoyed those movies and think he's probably going to bring any of that to this, that's probably a safe bet.
Probably.
I've still yet to see either one of those movies, but I do actually have them. So I am going to have to check those out.
Haven't seen the second one.
Yeah, I heard. I mean, anytime people bring up the Raiders, like, you haven't seen that, it's the best movie ever. I'm like, all right, calm down.
It's funny.
I got you. It's yeah. Anyway, next up,
you got this.
Oh, okay, fine. Female Thor has great potential, says Marvel's Kevin Feige. So Feige was out there talking, and I guess he was asked if, because of the fact that we have several cinematic u.s.avengers contracts starting to come back, maybe think about other ideas of other characters that they could bring in, and the idea of female Thor. They didn't specifically say Jane Foster Thor, but I'm pretty sure that was the implication. And he says, we always look back to the comics to get those ideas, sometimes in very specific storylines like Civil War, sometimes get negative characters like Planet Hulk. So anything that's happened in the comics, even a female Thor, become great potentials and the ideas of which future movies can be born. So he's teasing that out there, saying that they could probably do it. I don't think they will, because they're ballless. But hey, who knows? It could happen.
Okay. That commentary is definitely straight up Roddy trolling Marvel.
Hey, I love him, but you can't.
It's funny. So, but moving on to the next story, which I guess has two sides of the coin.
Yes.
So, apparently Tessa Thompson uh, 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 did an interview, I guess. I didn't read the stories.
It was so I'll take it. So I believe there's some scuttlebutt out there on Twitter, Twitter Rap or whatever. And Tessa Thompson about Valkyrie's sexuality, and Tessa Thompson said she's bi, and yes, she cares very little about what men think about her. What a joy to play. And this was a few days ago.
Okay.
When this happened, and I can't remember because I think I even read the Twitter the tweet that prompted that, but who cares because it's from person. A few days later, I guess she had to clarify that statement by saying, yes, Val is bi in the comics, and I was faithful to that in her depiction, but her sexuality isn't explicitly addressed in Thor Ragnarok.
And there you go.
Yeah.
All right.
Because ever since she said that initial statement, people were like, obviously, like, yeah, she's bi and this and that, and that's great and that's awesome. But whether they were going to show that in the movie,
Right. Whether or not it's a point to be made in the movie, I guess.
exactly, was kind of up in the air, and we found out that there you go.
All right, so we've got a couple. So let me roll. Since we rolled those two stories together, let me roll these two Captain Marvel stories together. So Kevin Feige has come out and confirmed that Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers, will appear in Avengers 4. We've also found out that Captain Marvel may be eyeing Rogue One's Ben Mendelsohn for a villainous role, probably a Kree scientist.
Yeah. So Ben Mendelsohn, who played director Krennic in Rogue One, who's clearly has already played a bad guy. If you know that, if you've watched that movie,
Sure.
Yeah, sure, it makes sense. All right, since you have done that one,
you find the next two.
yeah, there's a lot of that. Don't you like how the news person does their job? The Punisher current events did not change the series' final edit. Now, we talked about before to where they did not show the footage they were going to show at New York Comic-Con because of the sad events of
Las Vegas.
the Las Vegas mass shooting that happened around that time. But which this makes sense because there would be no reason to change it because that happened. Well, you would think there would be no reason to change it, because of the fact that event happened when it did. So, which also kind of makes me wonder, well, wait, if they made a point to make that to say this, then I wonder what made the edit, what made the final edit. Now, granted, the Punisher is a serial killer, quite a quote unquote anti-hero, but he only still kills bad guys. Okay, that's it is what it is. So just him getting on the air anyway in this day and age would be something different in a different light if you kind of went that fully there. If you went fully there, but we are not, and no one is. So you got to take that for what it is.
Okay. Did you get the next one?
Oh, right. Karen Page also almost didn't make it into the series. So yes, there was a article came out this past week that said that, hey, Karen Page from Daredevil series, aka Karen Wall, aka Baby Vamp, is going to be in the Punisher series, which I hear a friend of mine squealing with joy right now, because initially I guess she wasn't going to be. And I guess, there was no reason to believe. Well, I guess there was very little reason to believe that she would be, except for the fact that she spent most of the time during Daredevil with him. So you kind of wonder about that. But regardless, she's going to be in, and apparently she wasn't going to be apparently John Bernthal asked for her to be in there, and there you go.
Mm-hmm.
And that is why she is now in the Punisher. So, which also leads, I believe, led a couple of articles to believe that may or may not be a love connection between the two during the course of this series, or at least speculation of said relationship. We don't know. We won't find out until a few weeks from now.
All right. Is this next story your editorial?
No, this is their editorial.
Whose? I didn't
know.
click on the link. That's why. Whose is
Right.
it? IO9?
Anything in the notes is from the article.
Oh no, in terms of the title, like sometimes the title gets.
Oh yeah, I said it was an editorial, but
the title of the editorial actually says that it's BS. That's funny.
Yeah, the title. Yes, the title of the article says it's BS. Hence why I decided to throw an editorial tag into.
Understood. So essentially, Kevin Feige laid out the same story that he's been giving about the interconnectivity of the Netflix and the Marvel Cinematic versions of New York City and their heroes. And I guess in response to a question of why the Avengers Tower isn't visible from anywhere in the streets of New York that are patrolled by the Netflix heroes, Feige basically says, yeah, they can't see it because in the parts of New York City they're in, you can't really see it. I mean, listen, if you've ever been in New York City, that makes sense. But come on, it's not that big a city.
And they go more than a block or two. So come on, Avengers Tower in the movies was kind of even like it's a 93 stories. And yes, there are a lot of skyscrapers in New York. But you can tell me a 93-story building would not be seen in a lot of places in New York.
Yeah, pretty much. So I'm gonna leave it at that. It's just silly.
Yeah, basically. So I'm not sitting here saying that I don't disagree with the author's article.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah.
All right.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. star to play Frida Kahlo in Pixar's Coco. So, one Natalia Cordova Buckley, aka Yo-Yo, aka Slingshot of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., will lend her voice to the legendary Mexican artist Frida Kahlo in the film Coco, which is coming out in another month or so. Looks like she will have a cameo in the English language version. Wait, so does that mean she's going to be in the Spanish language version also? Well, regardless. So yeah, so that's cool.
Okay. Going to the uncool. The IMAX CEO admits that the Inhuman screenings in IMAX format were a mistake. Essentially, what the CEO admits is that Rich Gelfond admits to Deadline that they didn't exactly get the product that's kind of IMAX worthy to put on IMAX screens. You expect a certain production production value, a certain budget, or lack of attention to budget when it comes to these IMAX movies. And if anything, all the Inhumans is a budget series. I've tried to watch it. It's tough. I watch it like when football is awful because the Giants suck. Again, getting back to my current
theme here.
Yeah, exactly. When it comes to my current sports teams, my current fandom, my teams are just sucking so far. So I'm finding other things to do with my time. So, watching shows I've been meaning to get around to, and I've watched I think the first 3.5 episodes of Inhumans, and it is hard to get through. It's hard. The production value is bad. The best part is Lockjaw. It's so disappointing to see Black Bolt running around with his face uncovered. It sucks.
I haven't seen any of it, so I'm sorry.
It's so disappointing. So I can't imagine, I can't imagine feeling, like watching this in IMAX and just being like, "Are you kidding me?" So
yeah, and I would imagine that's where a lot of the hubbub about it being. I mean, even before it, because this out well before it got out the gate, like people were kind of poo-pooing Inhumans for even the trailer. So yeah,
sure.
I kind of want to give it hope. I mean, kind of want to give it a chance, but at the same time, it hasn't been looking good from the start, and whatever. So I kind of because like I said, you want things to be good, but
Sure.
They're not. Hey, it is what it is.
All right. Now
Making
that
a
we're in the Fox news, I was gonna say now that we're in Fox movie news, let's move it on. Let's move it. Let's keep it moving.
we'll do what we can. Actually, there might be a couple. Fox's Gambit is casting with sequels in mind.
They are so full of hope. These people,
report, I believe, because this is coming off of someplace called the hashtag show, so we don't know if this is actually the case or not. But it's Fox. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. And that's all about that. Even though we don't even have the original Gambit movie yet, so sure. Next.
So, one of Fox's few successes in the X-Men universe, based off of Logan. The director of Logan has confirmed that he's actually working on an X-23 movie script based on the young actress or actor Daphne Keane, who plays Laura in the movie Logan.
Yeah, cool beans. And back to some bad news. Venom movie. Actually, I'll tie these two together. Venom movie officially begins production. The movie probably not too many people actually ever wanted, probably outside of Tom Hardy. Started production on this past Monday with the release of a behind-the-scenes photo of said star Tom Hardy.
Hey, boo!
And in more Venom news, Tom Hardy's Venom will be a motion capture creation. In this day and age, not a surprise, not a big surprise.
Not a surprise. All right. So we have some Star Trek Discovery news. It has been renewed for a second season on CBS All Access. Not sure how to feel about that. Should I be cheering? I haven't seen any episodes.
I have heard nothing but, I have pretty much heard, at least on my timeline, nothing but good stuff about the show. And these are pretty much Star Wars fans and sci-fi fans. So I'm still want to check it out for myself as a Star Trek fan. But I have no reason to believe that it wouldn't be all right.
Okay.
And actually, there's another Star Trek story, excuse me. Which is the Star Trek Discovery's robot-looking crew member explained, which I guess this is a spoiler for maybe the last episode or the episode before that. I don't know. But apparently, they have a robotic non-Borg, possibly not. Well, I guess I would, going by the pictures, I would wager to say proto-data type.
Yeah, I was gonna say like a precursor.
But don't know. Again, I have to watch the show and find that out. But apparently, this article goes into explain what that character is about.
Alrighty. So, for fans of Star Wars Rebels, the animated series, don't expect any Han Solo connections in the final seasons of the show. I guess they are not going to drop too many clues about Han Solo.
I mean, I guess kind of makes sense because most of the ties. Actually, I take that back because there was actually
whenever they tie everything together nowadays.
Well, that's true too. I mean, and Lando has shown up, as has Princess Leia, whatever. But it is strange that they would go that route to saying that there's no tie to Han Solo. But I guess it also kind of makes sense. This is the last season of the show anyway, so whether there would even be any ties to link the two together would be interesting. But also I was like, well, they only tied to the main stuff, but I just remembered that there was a Easter egg in Rogue One to Rebels, so I was like, well, it can't be just sticking to the main stuff. Not saying that Rogue One is not in the main stuff, but it's kind of a side story regardless. So nevertheless, whatever. I mean, it is what it is. No Han Solo connections. The Star Wars Rebels is still a good show. It's not gonna kill anything by it not being tied to Han Solo. And you did not know this, but there was some news on the other side, so I'll just go ahead and start this off and say Mads Mikkelsen to star in Polar film adaptation. Polar came in from the cold specifically is a webcomic that ended up being reprinted at Dark Horse, which is now being turned into a movie directed by Jonas Ackerland, and as we said, Mads Mikkelsen is playing the lead character. Looks like he will be playing an assassin, because I don't know anything about this graphic novel or this webcomics turn comic, but it says here that Mads Mikkelsen was born to play the world's best assassin, says producer Jeremy Bolt. He is totally believable as the Black Kaiser in Polar, and Jonas's unique, vibrant, but grounded and darkly comic style will set Polar apart as an unforgettable tale. And apparently, whoever wrote this forgot the fact that Mads Mikkelsen was also in Rogue One, right after Doctor Strange. But that's fine. Next up.
All right. Up. A new of Marvel's Runaways featured a new trailer.
Yes. So yeah, there was a new trailer for Runaways, and apparently, the character of Old Lace apparently appeared in somewhere during the course of this this trailer. So yes, you got.
So shout out to any members of our listenership and viewing audience who'd be willing to reach out to one at agent_70 and help a brother out with the Hulu hookup so I can watch this.
We'll talk after the show. I don't know. But yeah, so if you
figure it out, people.
Is the dinosaur from the 87th century that becomes the pet of young Gert Yorks of the Runaways. So I can only imagine how the CG is going to be for that. But there you go. Runaways is going to be on November 21st. Or actually, it has already. No, it's next month. Never mind. Next up, going back to a little bit of Thor Ragnarok news. Thor Ragnarok actor cast as Shazam. So guess what, folks? TV's Chuck is going to be the new Shazam.
The mightiest mortal?
Yes, aka Zachary Levi of the aforementioned show. And also Heroes and Heroes.
Listen, they can pump up a lot of people pretty big. I'm not sure how big they're going to get this guy.
I mean, okay, think about this, though. Think about, like, you had Star-Lord, you had Chris whatever-his-face from Parks and Rec kind of swole up to be Star Wars. Like, I mean, Star-Lord. And from my counts, it was pretty significant because he was kind of a pudgy dude. I mean, he was kind of big, but he was kind of pudgy during his Parks and Rec before he swole up. So they could do things. And there have been actors who've gone the length to kind of bulk up a few extra pounds. You know what I mean? Ain't no telling what he's going to do.
Hope so. All right.
But yeah, there we go.
All right. So what is this? The Joker kidnaps Mark Hamill. New Justice League action short.
So this is kind of cool, actually, if you've not seen it. So Mark Hamill went on Twitter with this post, and it says, "The only time I've ever done anything while I was sleeping with the entire cast." So basically what this short is that Mark Hamill, the actor Mark Hamill, gets kidnapped by the Joker, also played by Mark Hamill, and the Trickster, also played by Mark Hamill. And it's done in the style of Justice League action. I'm not sure if this is a part of the show or if this is something on the side of the show, but it's all cool. So basically, mostly everybody that was in here was voiced by Mark Hamill. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, do so. Including the actor Mark Hamill also doing some voice work as one of the other people. And also, by the way, he voices Swamp Thing, who shows up in this short. So again, go check this out. It's pretty cool. And I believe that's for the cinematic news.
Page back to our comic news. Let's see if we can get through this quickly. Here we go. Lionforge launches syndicated comics LLC limited super limited liability company.
Basically, Lionforge bought the Beat, which was the comics website, and obviously there are people who are talking about it might be some whatever is behind the scenes, but you know, this article notes, I should say, that the Beat is not the first comic blog news site to be owned by the subjects they covered. The Comics Journal is owned by Fantagraphics. Bleeding Cool is owned by Avatar. Comic Vine is owned, and Comic Vine is owned by CBS Interactive. And this article also notes, funnily enough, that Heather McDonald, the proprietor of the Beat, says on her site, "I'm a little sad that everything I write about Lions Forge comics will now have to be labeled as hype and sponsored content, but I'm going to have the same standards for covering them as I have every other company. They put out some good comics, and I want to help people know about that, as I always have." Heather McDonald been around in the comics field for quite a long time, so that is the name a lot of people know. And this article also goes on to say that we'll have to wait and see how that disclosure about relationship will happen going forward. Both TCJ and Comic Vine feature their owners in small text at the bottom of their front page. Bleeding Cool features no disclosure on the front page. So that might be a little dig at BC. We don't know.
Okay.
Moving right along.
I adjusted the headline to reflect the proper number of L's in a limited liability company because that's what threw me off. You gotta love it. There were 3 L's there. I was like, what the hell is a triple L?
Some of us on this panel would know more about that than others. Yes.
So I'm looking at that. I'm like, what? That's why I said it's a super limited Anyway, it's just a typo, people. So yes. Marvel shows off more of Thor's new look and hammer in the latest, I guess, the excerpts from Thor number 700, and people trying to explain where this might be going.
Mm-hmm. Which, I mean, it's not that far off from, arm aside and still brandishing the hammer. I mean, the X in this picture, not that much different from what he would normally wear regardless.
Right. It's just a matter of what these metallic things are, what metal these are covered with, so or made of. So that's really what the question is.
I mean, what have they always been made of, though? I mean, because he's had a version of them for a minute.
No, but they were Uru before. But Uru has always been portrayed as being, kind of metallic colored.
Right.
So seeing something, other than Beta Ray Bill's Uru hammer, which is gold, Simonson specifically designed it so that it would be distinctive. So it's kind of curious. Like, I wonder if it's Uru or if it's going to be something else.
I mean, whatever the arm is made out of, probably the same material, and the hammer, which could very well be gold Uru. We don't know. We'll find out. You'll find out.
Exactly. Next up.
We've kind of already talked about this, but Claw's return kickstarts Black Panther's legacy arc, which again we've already talked about that. So, and I think this is also an interview where talking to Leonard Kirk about his, him coming onto the book. Sure.
Top Cow Stairway reveals how DNA is key to saving society. So this is a Top Cow Productions Kickstarter project, an original graphic novel entitled Stairway, which takes a hard look at our DNA and the potential it has to rebuild our society in the wake of a nuclear disaster. So that sounds like an interesting premise. And if you're looking to contribute, do you have a link?
A link in the article, but you can.
There's a link in the article on CBR.
Right. And if you want to look for Stairway Kickstarter comics, that'll probably get you somewhere close to that. This also mentioned a book you mentioned earlier, Golgotha.
Yeah.
Golgotha, yeah.
Yeah, it's the original graphic novel. We got I don't know if it's out. I think it's out this week. We definitely got our review copy, and I did read a good chunk of it. So I liked it. I didn't realize that was a result of their most recent Kickstarter initiative.
So
it's cool because Matt Hawkins, he's done Think Tank for Top Cow. He's also one of their upfront people, like editors in chief or something along those lines. So, they're putting together some kind of thought provoking work.
Yeah, cool. Next up, DC Entertainment to receive the Visionary Award at the 2017 GLSEN Respect Awards.
That's not how you spell respect. You got to talk to Rita Franklin.
Nice. GLSEN, I want to say Gleason, but I don't know how they pronounce it. The leading education organization creating safe and inclusive schools for LGBTQ youth will honor DC Entertainment with the Visionary Awards at the 2017 Respect Awards. Diane Nelson, president of DC Entertainment and president of Warner Brothers Consumer Products, will accept the award at the gala on. Actually, has already accepted the award on the October 20th at the Beverly Wilshire. So congrats to DC for that. And we kind of already talked about this, but
yep, we did. Just very quickly, mercies for the week. Batman the Merciless #1. Please refer back to my discussion of the book.
Yep. Liam Sharp teases mystery DC Comics project. Artist Liam Sharp took to Twitter earlier Monday morning to drop a big hint about mystery project he's been working on for DC. This article goes on to say that looking at the titles that Liam Sharp, why am I saying Ian Sharp put out, speculates that the designs have Nordic runes on them could be something to do with Norse mythology. We don't know at this point, but we'll probably get some more news on that somewhere down the line.
Alrighty. So what's next? So you did the Liam Sharp one?
Yeah.
Detectives Bat Team in the Belfry gets a name, and it's perfect. So James Tynion IV took over this book. He created a Bat family dynamic, and this group has been named. It's not in the story,
isn't it?
I haven't opened the story.
I don't know, and I didn't read this article. I don't know why I didn't, because it's not like I'm reading the book.
Okay, here we go. I'm gonna scroll through this thing. I rang the spoiler bell. I'm gonna spoil the crap out of this. So, the oh god. So the group, this Bat family group, has been named the Gotham Knights, as in Knights of the Round Table, Knights of King Arthur.
Hey, boo!
Thank you.
Yes, moving right along, get into some oh geez, I thought I had wait, I had moved the stuff around. What's going on here? Okay, we're gonna do a little skipping around here.
Okay, lead the way.
So Thanos is genocidal in the exclusive Marvel Legacy first look. So yeah, this was an interview with actually it wasn't an interview with John Cases, basically some preview pages from Thanos 13, in which as you said earlier, it sounds like Thanos is back to his old powered self and about to get in some dirt.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Kevin Eastman and Waltz talk Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #75 and the surprise death of a classic character.
I didn't want to be scrolled to that. Again, not reading Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, so I had the speculation that it was probably Splinter.
Could be,
because that seems the logical choice. But but I'm not sure if this article says. But guess what? There's going to be a death, and you'll probably hear about it at some point.
Right.
Turtles. We don't have to belabor it.
Okay, so we got a few stories left, and it seems that they're toy centric.
They are, which is round in the back of us. Boost your Funko collection with exclusive Justice League glowing silhouette pops. So these are kind of cool. I just recently saw, and I'm shout out to PCN_Dirt if he has actually seen these, but there was some glowing ones based off of Kingdom's Hearts, but they were like Tron looking figures. Now he probably wouldn't care for the Kingdom's Hearts but the Tron looking glow of them would probably be cool. We kind of similar thing with these Justice League forms. So they're basically glow in the dark pops, and there's like the whole team. One would say the cinematic team, you might as well say, is represented here, and I think they'll be on sale quite soon.
Okay.
Yes. And speaking
all right, the next toy related story is introducing Funko Pop Vinyl Saga characters. Saga, the epic space opera fantasy comic book series created by acclaimed writer Brian K. Vaughan and award-winning artist Fiona Staples, is finally, I guess, coming to Funko. I know that PCN_Dirt has mentioned that in his store, Saga does not sell well. In the little store I frequent, that finds itself in located within the West Village of New York City, Saga, unsurprisingly, has a pretty good fan base.
Yeah, I was about to say, one store can't really make up all sales. So
exactly, it's not, obviously they're not exactly serving the same demographic,
right?
So,
it's always key when you hear stories about that kind of stuff.
Exactly. So, all that being said, we have Funko joining in on the fun and producing Funko Pops of various characters from this series.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that they haven't had these already.
Yeah. I mean, I guess they finished mining like classic television animated series.
No, they still are. They still are.
So they're out there. Listen, I'm just glad I got when they put out the 4 members of the A team. I was happy to get them. That was awesome.
They didn't get the van because I know you said there was a space thing.
It's a space thing. The van is actually on the big side.
Yeah, I wish I had gotten the van before my my old comic shop went out of business, but I didn't. So.
Oh, they would have had it like on sale.
Oh, they had it. Yeah, they totally had it
on sale, like for a cheaper price. Okay.
I mean, it was relatively cheap, even lower price. But yeah, even when it was starting to get rid of stuff, yeah, it would have been reduced a little bit more. So I should have gotten it then. But hey, hindsight. Last but not least is the story of the hour and the day for me. Age of 70 probably also, but I also have
cool.
slight beef with it, and that is 2018 Marvel Legends Black Panther movie series figure photos off of Marvel Total News, which is a site both Agent 70 and I will frequent
a lot.
Yes. And apparently this kind of came out of nowhere today because so we're getting a new wave of Build-A-Figure Marvel Legends series, and half of it's based off of the upcoming movie Black Panther. So we have another version of Black Panther. We have Nakia, one of the Dora Milaje. We have Eric Killmonger in this Black Panther suit, but we also have the likes of Black Bolt, Submariner, which I found there was a Namor one I saw in Walgreens recently, and I took a picture.
That's the Walgreens exclusive where he's wearing the blue tights.
Right.
Submariner.
More classic, exactly. Submariner, and also he's Tony Stark, Invincible. Well, yes, Invincible Iron Man. Because at first I thought, wait, they're doing Riri Williams? No. Which where I start my beef. Now, before I even get into that, so the Build-A-Figure for this wave is Okoye of the Dora Milaje.
Right, so, another Dora Milaje. So that's fine.
But it's cool. And here you see.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm great with that. I think
there's people who were disappointed that it wasn't like a Marvel Man-Ape, something big and sturdy.
Who cares?
No, but I mean, I definitely count myself. I have to interject with a certain point, because when you find yourself building the Build-A-Figure, you want to feel like you're putting something, impressive together. Sure. Like large, right? And that's generally how Build-A-Figures have come. So I recall my hesitance in building Mantis from the second Guardians of the Galaxy set, but I built it because I felt like it was a nice figure, and it was and it didn't require me to buy stupid Death's Head 2. So So I went and did it. But I definitely understand, like that first reaction. It's like, oh, I wish it was like something supersized.
Yeah.
Nothing against the character. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, and see, my reaction on this one was the opposite because yeah, some of those builder figures, just like you said with Mantis, was like some of them are not great, and some of them like I don't care about this building this character, or in some cases half of the set that you have to make them that you have to put them together with.
Right.
I believe it was that last Guardians of the Galaxy one where the character was a throwback to like Nova or something. I can't remember. I was about to say Mr. Tawny, but that's not even the right universe. Regardless, I'm like, no, I don't want that. So this one, I'm
talking about the wait. We're talking about in order to build Mantis, there was like a character that
no, there was another builder figure. No, not
Oh
that
yeah,
one.
exactly. The Titus,
Right.
exactly. Like who wants to build that? No one wants to build that.
Exactly. A character people barely even
I
know.
think more people wanted to build Man Thing. I actually built Man Thing. So
Right. So this one I was okay with because like okay, at least it was within the realm of the wave, and two, I'm like, hey, that's a character. We get that character regardless one way or the other. So that's awesome. Like I said, half of this wave I'm okay with. Now, yeah, I have to get another Black Panther figure, but as we have found out with these things, you end up having to do anyway.
right. So there's a couple. Oh, I don't know. Do you remember the point?
Yeah, I was gonna say Submariner I don't care about. This invincible Iron Man could have been Riri Williams. They could have done since I don't think she has a figure yet. So why did to go with Tony Stark's? I don't know, but that's just my nitpick, and I don't know. And Black Bolt, I'm neither here nor there on. Like it's a classic Black Bolt, and I don't have one, and that's actually looks halfway decent, so I'm okay with that one.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Like so. Allow my comments on pretty much the same idea. So I'm happy to get the Black Panther movie figures. I'm happy that the two of the figures are Dora Milaje, so you can actually have more than one, so that you can actually have the two bodyguards next to the Black Panther.
Right.
That's cool. What I don't like is that they've basically revealed what Killmonger is going to look like, and it's kind of lame.
Well, I mean, but the trailer also had that in there.
Exactly, but now it's even clearer that it's lame.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like I was just kind of hoping that the trailer was like, all right, it's sort of clear, and if you just sort of like close your eyes for a second, you sort of don't see it, and you can say you saw it, but now it's out there for everyone to see, and I'm not a fan of the the mirror image villain.
It also feels kind of cheap. Also, now that I think about it, because if you think about this one, his Killmonger's suit is kind of a take off of, I believe, Black Panther suit from the pre-series.
Yes, with the gold trim. Yes.
So that feels
that too. I'm excited to get a Black Bolt character, a Black Bolt figure, because the only Black Bolt Marvel Legends that they've done was an exclusive at San Diego, and it's this figure. But now I think they've remolded a little bit the head, so they've got two heads now. It's got the like the quiet Black Bolt and the screaming Black Bolt, and that's cool.
I think the wings weren't. Didn't it? The wings were a little different also.
I don't know. I didn't look at it that carefully. I do know that I've read that it's pretty much the same mold.
Right.
I can say that as a fan of the Submariner, until they've kind of screwed up his character and had him go against the Illuminati and destroy Wakanda, blah, all that stuff for his recent history, right? I like this version of the Submariner. I know that people like the having clothes on the Submariner, but I'm just used to it's just kind of like normal for me to just see this dude running around in swim trunks. Yeah. So you could do like a lot of classic Avengers lineups with this figure. Who else were we talking about? Who else is in this? Oh, Iron Man. Yeah, you're spot on with your Iron Man criticisms. I'm not a fan of Iron Man's inclusion in the series. How many Iron Mans do we need to see, and do we really need him to bolster the lineup here?
Right.
Is that what this is? Is it to bolster the sales, saying, "Oh, hey kids, you may not want all these Black Panther figures, but here's an Iron Man. Come on."
Right. And like are we to believe that putting, well, actually not, because I was about to say, because it kind of looks like the current armor that Riri Williams is wearing, but then again, most of his armors look fairly similar at a certain point. So you can't really go by that. And of course, you got the Tony Stark head here. Like I said, this could have been a good opportunity for them to just like, hey, we'll put a Riri Williams head in here and we'll make this.
Well, not even a head. No, I was going to say they should have done a new mold. And I think
but that's what I'm saying. I mean, they both. I'm saying they could have done. Yeah,
they could have not released. They could have held off on releasing this version of Iron Man for another wave. And that's just the at the ultimately that's what it comes down to. They really should have molded a Riri Williams figure, but at the same time, I would caution. I would say that the criticism may not be warranted because you know how long it takes to produce these figures and to sculpt them and mold them and create. You know what I mean? So
I'm still sticking with it.
No, because I would only mention. Listen. Your criticisms are your own criticisms. I would only mention as reference how long it took them to do a Spider-Gwen.
It's true.
I think that's really what it comes down to. Like that's one of the runaway popular characters. And even stupid Gwenpool, still hasn't come out yet. You know what I mean? But it has. But that character unfortunately has been out for quite a while now.
Yeah, I mean,
which is like I can't believe they're doing a Gwenpool later next year. You know what I mean? So.
Well, that's the thing that kind of gets me. Like they would do a Gwenpool as opposed to who is a much newer character than even. I guess they can.
Gwenpool's not. Like if you think about it, Gwenpool's been around for a couple of years.
But at this point, so is
that. At this point, I just remember being so excited for the Spider-Gwen and thinking it took them quite a while to get that together. So
I mean, they did get a Silk out, and No,
she'd been out a long time before that too.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, in any event, like I said, it's nice when when we get the toys that we want. Sometimes we're just stuck waiting for them a little longer than we want to.
Yeah, but yeah. Regardless, they're more than likely. I'm probably, I might as well say it. I will probably end up getting this wave,
just to get the Dora Milaje. That's really what my draw is.
Yes,
I'd like to have the two of them because. It's not like they have a set appearance in the comics, so you can use them. You can use them as the regular 616, or Marvel Prime Earth Dora Milaje. They don't have to be the MCU versions,
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, all right. So we are at the end of our show.
Yes, I was gonna do an unboxing, but way too long. So.
You want to just do the reading and then you do an unboxing real quick and just go quick through the unboxing?
Okay, sure.
Yeah. All right. Let's knock it out. Let's see here. While I pull up the next. Well, did I close the window? I'm an idiot. So, you think I know these advertising reads by heart? Think again. Let's see. We did Amazon, so let's do scripts. Aha.
I would provide a soundtrack while we're waiting, but I can't think of anything.
It's okay. Here we go. So, are you ready with your box? As
Sure.
soon as I'm done with the reading? All right. So, let me tell you about Skull Candy. Skull Candy makes the best headphones, earbuds, and gaming headsets, all with lifetime warranties. Skull Candy produces many types of audio accessories, including headphones, sports earbuds, Xbox gaming headsets, PlayStation gaming headsets, DJ headphones, iPod, and MP3 headphones. And now, for the listeners of the KLIQ Nation's Comic Book Chronicles, Skull Candy offers free standard shipping on your order. To help keep our podcast free, order from Skull Candy by going to cspn.us. That's cspn.us. Then click on the Keep Our Podcast Free link. Click on the Skull Candy banner and then shop for high-quality audio accessories with free standard shipping. Skull Candy Audio through cspn.us. Do it today. And if you like the last part of our comic news feed, which resembled what would be a Comic Book Chronicle spin-off show called Toy Corner, let us know in your feedback and comments.
Yeah, and I guess this next thing would add on to it because we have another unboxing, folks.
Yay!
This month's Marvel comic collector core boxes come in. Actually came in a few days ago, but for some stupid reason I saved it. The theme is, guess what? Thor Ragnarok, given the movie out week, which by the way, well, no, we don't have to say that because we will still have a show next week.
Exactly.
And just go on with the unboxing. Top of the box, you got Hella. It's hella good. Bump. Of course, we got line art in
Nice.
the side of the box. Looks like Thor and the Planet Hulk helmets.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. We also have, and that's just to add for time. It shows what's in here. We have a beanie. A Planet Hulk skull cap.
Nice. It is almost wintertime.
Yeah, basically. I don't know if I would wear this tonight. I'm debating that one, but it's kind of cool. It's got a little Planet Hulk.
And the tattoos.
Yeah.
Is that the tattoos or the side of the helmet? Is that what it's supposed to resemble?
Yep.
That's kind of cool, actually.
We also have the prerequisite pin.
Cool. Hella.
I could probably wear that next week to the show. We'll also have magnets.
Ha 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 ha! That's cool.
Yeah,
I like the Hella one. She's gonna steal the show in this movie, man.
Yeah, that's what I've been hearing. The early reports that Hella and Valkyrie have are pretty much doing it in this movie, so I'm looking forward to seeing it. But yeah, of course, this has Thor, Hulk, Loki, and Hela on that. And oh shoot, oh weird. So Thor Ragnarok playing cards.
No kidding.
Yeah, which actually is kind of funny because I bought this a while back, which is a set of X-Men playing cards. For some odd reason, I like cards. What can I say?
All
right. And the one thing, of course, nowadays you can't go too far without seeing a fidget spinner. It has a little weight on it too. Actually, it's cool because it's neat looking because on one side it has looks like Thor banner and Hulk.
Right.
And on the other side it has Loki. Wait, no. Is that Loki, Valkyrie, and I don't know who this other person is. I guess I could check it out real quick. Sorry for the rattling, folks.
All right. Obviously, it's not Hela because you would recognize that right away.
Yeah. So there you go with that.
That's cool. I know that the fidget spinner fad is petered out, but it's still pretty cool that they produced that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's probably going to continue for a little bit longer. So yeah, I'm not sure who this person. Oh, that's Hela right there.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not sure.
That's whatchamacallit. Exactly.
AKA Jeff Goldblum.
Jeff Goldblum, yes.
So yeah, there we go. Like I said, this one's got a little weight for me because the other fidget spinner I have feels kind of cheap because it's Chinese made, whatever.
It's one of those. I was about to say it's one of the street models.
Yeah, basically that I got at a comic convention. But this is cool. And last but not least, the thing you come in here for. Okay, let me stop that right there. Pops. Got Thor.
Alrighty.
With his helmet and I thought there was something in here. Oh, he got his shield, battle regalia here, and Loki.
Nice.
So, and of course, you got on the back, you got the figures that are going to be in a set. Suspiciously missing Valkyrie. Oh no, Valkyrie's right there. Never mind. So I take back what I just said. And as a matter of fact, I think I saw a picture. Maybe I'm thinking about this wrong, but I thought I saw a picture with Tessa Thompson with a Valkyrie figure. I might be wrong about that.
Oh, with the Funko.
Yeah, with the pop. But I know I have seen a picture somewhere. So regardless, so that's that whole box.
Yeah, have you seen the Target 2-pack?
I have actually, and I'm debating.
Gotcha. Gotcha. I haven't seen it yet, so my hope is that either it passes the holiday season and it's still around, or I run into it when I'm shopping for the holidays. So we'll see.
If I run across it at one, you want me to pick you up one?
I'm not sure. I'm not
Okay.
sure. Not
Yeah.
100% sure because I want to see if the Thor one, because I know that the Thor one is just a duplicate basically, and that kind of sucks.
Yeah. We'll talk offline.
Yeah. The only reason why the Iron Man and Spidey one was cool is because the Iron Man one had the empty head,
Right.
and
Yeah.
the Spidey had the Tom Holland head.
Right. I know William Bruce West had. I can't remember what his because it looks like he had run across something.
Sure. Like I still haven't picked up the Star-Lord and the Ego one because it's just not interesting enough.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
some of those super packs like, I
No,
saw
that one in particular is still sitting around in Toys R Us, like gathering dust.
right. I saw a 2-pack I almost picked up, and I think it was an Iron Man one. No, actually, I don't remember what it was. I had to go back. If it's still there next week, I'll go check it out because I meant to
Was
get
it the
it.
Iron Man and Spidey one?
I can't remember honestly
Because that was hot for like a good.
No, it was War Machine and
An Iron Man, like the disco colored.
yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say real quick. The Iron Man and the empty helmet Iron Man and Tom Holland Spidey head was a pretty hot commodity for a while, and then they started to send out more to Toys R Us. I started to see more of them, so they're not nearly as expensive as they once were on the secondary market.
Probably can find them better than SNES Classic.
What's that?
You can probably find them more than a SNES Classic.
Yeah, that too. But just very quickly, I wanted to mention before we close that I have seen, like Spider-Man: Homecoming in fits and starts since I've gotten it on Blu-ray. I've seen the movie in total probably about 3.5 times.
Yeah,
it's a lot of fun. People, watch it. Just watch it. It'll bring a smile to your face.
True. But you're here too. Am I?
Yeah, right. I'm not obsessed with them. I'm just observant.
Yes. That was great.
So anyway, let's wrap up this show. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us on this somewhat extended Comic Book Chronicles that has incorporated elements of Comic Book Chronicles Toy Corner. Thank you for joining us. Follow us on our individual social media accounts. I am at agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram. Follow at Roddycat on Twitter and Instagram, and at News Nerds Need on Twitter, and at CB Caps on Instagram. Follow at PCN_dirt on Twitter and at Pop Culture Net on Twitter. Go to his website. It's popculturenetwork.com. And follow at TimDog98 on Twitter and at the KLIQ Nation on Twitter. And he runs our official Comic Book Chronicles Twitter handle at CBCron. And go to our website, www.thekliqnation.com. And with that, we will not be going into movie protocol next week because with the move of our show to Friday evenings, we should be able to catch Thor Ragnarok on opening night and come back with our mostly spoiler-free reviews. So tune in next week if you want to hear what we think about Thor Ragnarok, or just hold off on, just fast forward past everything we say about the movie and listen to our thoughts on next week's comics and comic book news. So with that, we bid you good night, and we'll see you around the same bat time and same bat channel. Leave you with this.
Drop, shut them down, open up shop. Oh, no, that's how our fathers roll. Snitches wanna try, snitches wanna lie, the snitches wonder why.
But
all I know is pain, all I feel is rain. I cannot maintain the madness of my brain. I resort to violence, my killers with the silence.
Oh my, oh, you insult me.